Welcome to Business Talk Sister Gawk. I'm Becca, and today's podcast episode topic is how to start a nut roasting business. And this is an episode I've been looking forward to for a while. And with me today, I have Karen Hamilton. Thank you so much for being with me.
I'm so honored to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, so tell me, what do you do?
So in many, many circles, I am known as the Nut Lady. We have a small business by the name of Beyond Nuts, and I do Bavarian-style roasted almonds, cashews, and pecans in a variety of flavors.
Okay, tell me what, Bavarian, I didn't even know there was, a specific niche. Tell me what that's all about.
It is specific. It's actually, they started in Germany. There's a company that makes these roasters that have a big copper kettle, a mixing arm, and then a heat element underneath. The Germans perfected the cinnamon almonds. So, like when you go to Cabela's or those types of places, they have the cinnamon almonds.
Yeah.
That's the original recipe. They send you a recipe with the machine. It's mostly sugar, nuts, and then flavors. Cinnamon almonds is widely known, but I get bored, so we end up with things like espresso and maple and lemon drop and even a spicy mix.
Okay.
That is so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this business.
It's been a wild road getting here, let me tell you.
Yeah, and so tell me why you do what you do. What got you
I
into
joke
this?
that it's my accidental job, actually. Back in 2012, we were in Montana, and I met a gentleman who does Bavarian-style roasted nuts in Montana. And when we moved back to Minnesota, he would call me every couple of months and say, "Why aren't you roasting nuts over there? Nobody's roasting nuts over there. Why aren't you doing this?" So we worked out a deal. He loaned me a machine, and we hit the ground running in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's exciting to me because a lot of times when I interview businesses or some people say, "Oh, I should be on your podcast." I'm like, "Well, how long have you had your business?" And they're like, "A few months." And I'm like, I don't think you're there yet to be able to tell me everything, and I want to glean all that I can in a morbid way from your mistakes.
Right? Well, the mistakes are always, there's always a great story with the mistakes.
Exactly. So. Yeah, for sure. And so with that, tell me a little bit about how you do what you do.
Right. So it all involves a trip to Sam's Club. Everybody
Okay.
asks, where do I get my nuts? And I have looked into buying nuts from farms directly. My struggle is that we have a small little 1955 farmhouse, and I have nowhere to store the amount of nuts that I go through in a year.
Okay.
So we go to Sam's Club, and I walk out with literal cases of nuts.
Okay.
Almonds, pecans, cashews, and tons of sugar. It's not even unfathomable to go through 150 pounds of sugar in a 5-day county fair.
Okay.
So load up the trailer, get the roaster going. It takes me about 12 minutes to make a batch of nuts.
And how many pounds would you say is in that?
Exactly. So a batch of nuts ends up being about a little over 4 pounds total product at the end.
Okay.
3 pounds of nuts and 1.5 pounds of sugar.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a sticky mess, right? And it takes about 3 batches of nuts to fill a bin, and I have 13 different flavors. So there's a lot of nuts.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And you have a lot of variety, it seems. So tell me about your experimentation process of coming up with these are our staple flavors that we do.
Right? So our sweet and salty is the classic. The sweet and salty mix is all 3 nuts, vanilla, sugar, and salt. That's my best seller. That's what I give out as gifts most of the time. In fact, you have a bag of sweet and salty cashews.
Yeah, you brought me a gift today. I was so excited.
It's fun to experiment with flavors. I've got a few ideas in the back of my mind. The struggle is, first of all, it costs product to experiment. Also, a lot of different ingredients don't handle the high heat of my kettle very well.
Okay.
It's a copper kettle, and it gets to about 400 degrees. So, for instance, I've tried different sugar substitutes. They don't handle the heat like sugar does.
Okay.
I have wanted to make a lot of people are watching their sugar intake. I want to make one with either monk fruit or stevia. What I found is those products turn into a black tar in my kettle and stink up the trailer for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just kind of play with things. My most recent new flavor is lemon drop.
Oh.
You remember the little lemon drop candies? This tastes like nuts that were doused in lemon drop candies.
Okay.
I think they taste like a lemon bar even, like the pecans just have that nutty flavor, but with the lemon, they're fun. The base recipe, the 3 pounds of nuts, 1.5 pounds of sugar, and then I just play with the different flavors.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your setup. Do you have like a tent? You said something about a trailer, but how did you like figure out this is what works for us and this is why?
Sure. So we started off in a tent. We started off with like 4 folding tables and a 10 by 10 tent and electricity to power the roaster. We found out pretty fast that it would be more convenient, easier setup to operate out of a trailer. We actually have 2 trailers now.
Okay.
I literally call them the little trailer and the big trailer.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yep. The little trailer I bought from a friend who used to do kettle corn. Actually, he still does kettle corn, but he upgraded his trailer, so I bought his.
Okay.
So we started off, that one is like 14 feet long, and we've got the long counter space for where the nuts sit while I'm selling. I've got a table where the roaster goes, and I've got the prep table where I build the batches. It's an assembly line. 12 to 15 minutes, depending on the temperature and the humidity. So if I'm outside on a hot, sticky day, it might take a little longer for the nuts to do what they do in the roaster. But it's an assembly line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there like a threshold of like heat or like I know for coffee there's like a first crack, or is there
Right.
something like that happens in the process?
It's very fascinating. The nuts go through a whole process in the roaster. Almonds and pecans are fairly similar. They start off with the vanilla and the sugar and the flavor, and they start to absorb the moisture from the diluted vanilla. So they'll go dry. Once they go dry, then they actually start to sweat. You'll see little beads of moisture come back out of the nut, and that's when they're getting close to done. The almonds will snap. You'll hear them like
A pop.
kernel of
Yep.
popcorn kind of pop. So when I'm helping customers, because I work alone 98% of the time, I'll hear a snap of an almond and I'll have to, tell the customer, hold on 1 second while I grab this batch. And everybody's understanding. Like they see that I'm working alone and they're like, no problem, we like them fresh. And that's my whole hook, is that I'm roasting on site.
Okay.
So you smell them everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how you keep that supply. Is it typical that you have people waiting until the next batch is done, or how does that work for you?
Right? That's a great question. Actually, I always say I never want to run out of nuts, but at the same time, if I run out, that means I'm selling well. Trial and error, straight up trial and error on how much to stock, how much to bring to events. Since we've been doing it since 2016, I used to tease my husband that he would nerd up my business. I fly by the seat of my pants on most things I do. But bless my husband for insisting that, hey, you need a spreadsheet. You need to be tracking expenses. You need to know what you spend on nuts and sugar and vanilla. Well, what about the hotels when I'm doing out of town events, or the gas to get to the event? He has me tracking everything. And when the kids were little, even childcare.
Okay.
So he's very good at making sure I stay on track and keep it more business-like.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you kind of know, based on your previous event data, this is typically what I sell at this event, and this is how much I should plan to have on hand. Okay.
Yep. So, for instance, on Tuesdays, I'm at the Ely Farmers Market. So I bring what I have roasted. For instance, last week I spent 5 days at a county fair. Well, now I'm well stocked for the farmer's market, which I won't set up the roaster and roast for 2 hours. It's not enough time to go through all that work. So I'll bring the pre-roasted to that. But like this weekend is the Blueberry Fest. I'll be roasting in one trailer, and I have both trailers in Ely for that event. They kind of love us there, so they asked that we bring both. So we're going to be at 2 ends of the park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And in that instance, my best friend steps in and she works the other trailer for me while I roast in the one, and she sells out of the other, and it works. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, did you have to go through any sort of like food safe serve certification or anything
Absolutely.
like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Had to complete your food safety through the state. For a while, we operated with the cottage food law too. we learned really hard way again that first of all, there is no Department of Ag office in Duluth, Minnesota, even though the website said that there was. I went down to Canal Park.
Phantom office.
And I knocked on a door, and it turns out it was the Environmental Protection Agency. They don't want anything to do with the nut business.
Yeah, I could see that.
But in the early days, they didn't know how to classify us. My product is edible during every stage of the process, so it's considered non-hazardous as far as food. You know, there's no temperature concern, there's no storage concern. You might burn your mouth if you plucked it right out of the roaster and ate it, but it would be safe. It would not make you sick. So we had to go through a process of figuring out which department in the state would license us, how they wanted us to do it. It's a whole thing. Right now we're working towards getting the big trailer completely certified through the state health department as essentially a mobile kitchen.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then the small one is that Department of Ag then?
Yep.
Or? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And I just show up and serve what we've already roasted and packaged.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's super interesting to me because people who kind of fit in the in-between, like an example of that would be like a butcher shop. Right. It's crazy because the regulations are so different.
Oh, very different.
For Department of Ag versus like the Department of Health.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's super interesting to hear like when people decide who they go with and why. Yeah. Like what their long-term plan is or all of that kind of stuff. Because even when it comes down to, like an example of this is the Department of Ag has a rule about sealing your concrete floor in a cooler versus the U.S. Department of Health says, well, you should probably have like a tile floor or whatever. And so like even in that, it's like they can fight over like just a regulation.
Absolutely.
Know? And so, yeah, anyways, it's just kind of like intriguing to me in a nerdy way.
Right. Well, and it's fascinating. And then add in the complexity of different cities and counties and states all have different regulations too for just selling, being a transient merchant or a food truck or whatever. So again, learn all these things the hard way, but I looked at different events in different parts of the state. And I've, for the most part, stayed from Duluth north. It's kind of, the Iron Range and the Twin Ports is kind of my home region. That first year, though, we had done 9 county fairs in 8 weeks. My husband was roasting, and I took the kids and would go to another county fair. And yeah, our daughter was 4 months old when we started this business. So she thinks that it's kind of intrinsically tied to her age and she takes personal ownership of being the same age as the nut business, which is cute now. Like she's, but I would take them with me and sell, I'd strap her to my back and roast nuts and sell nuts, and our son would be crawling under the table and, causing all kinds of havoc. But each different county and even township or city has different licensing.
Okay.
So county fairs were pretty universal. Different festivals, though, have their own requirements. Also, in like the Twin Cities, then they have different sales tax. And then again, just the licensing and the permits and all this stuff. And it's like, you have to evaluate, what's my overhead? I like to keep my numbers. I like my event fees to be 10% or less than my gross sales for any given event.
Okay.
Well, once you start paying this permit, that permit, this license, and even if it's for 3 days and you're paying $100 for just those 3 days, that doesn't pencil out either. So we had to pick and choose where we go, what we do. And then in the early days of the business, I did a lot of craft shows and smaller events, one day little, pop-ups and whatever. You figure out really fast that while that may have been fun and you came home with money in your pocket, it really doesn't pencil out.
Oh, exactly. And, I think that is something, like, as a pro tip to all of these nonprofits that keep wanting to do vendors,
right?
is like, hey, you have to make it worth their time. And if you're not marketing the event well, you don't, like, have numbers on what your traffic flow is, what the average, like, shopping cart is, all that kind of stuff, you're not really doing your vendors a service.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, how am I going to make a informed decision aside from trial and error and wasting 2 days of my life,
Absolutely.
Or it could be super profitable, but it's like, I could spend 8 hours sitting at a booth and only sell one product. That's not worth my weekend.
Nope. It's not worth your weekend, especially when you start to consider that you have a life outside of the nut trailer. You know, I've got a family and a farm, and there's other things I want to do. I want to go fishing.
Right, right. And I think that those are super valuable things that you guys have been learning. So tell me a little bit about, as you've been going through that process, what, like, I really like that benchmark number you have, that 10%. Do you ever negotiate those things with the shows that you're going to, or explain to them, like, if you want me to come, this is what I would need to see from you?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and one thing the nut business has taught me is actually how to grow a spine. No joke. I
No, it's good.
No, I'm a habitual yes woman. I am the one will drop my life and put everything on hold to help someone else because they need me. Well, the nut business has told me that, you know, my time is valuable too. And when I have certain boundaries, those have to be respected. That was a hard thing for me to learn. I would do anything for anybody, and I still will. But now I'm more selective on who that anybody is. But, you know, you go to these events and you talk to them about traffic, first of all, like you said. You got to know how many people are coming by your booth. And then I can tell you that if they stop and sample my nuts, they're buying them. And 9 times out of 10, probably.
So samples are
9.8.
key tip.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
They can smell them. Now they've
Yep.
tasted them. They're not walking away without them.
Okay.
Yep. They do love them. But yeah, getting back to, you know, communicating with organizers, now I've gotten to the place of being an organizer myself. I've been asked to help organize different events to get vendors, and I've gone to different boards. They're like, we don't know how to attract food trucks. And I'm like, I can tell you right off the bat, if you're a brand new event, don't charge your food trucks to be there. That is one thing. If you want them to come check it out, don't tell them they got to pay you. Not the first time around, especially if you don't have data on how many people go through your event. You know, there's factors, you know. And again, I have nuts. What about the food trucks that have barbecue or full meals? You know, they're doing a whole menu. That's a whole different ballgame. You know, I can take my nuts home and sell them next week at the farmer's market. The guy with brisket, that doesn't fly.
Yeah, and that's actually another question I had for you, was on like the shelf stable / shelf life of your product. How do you factor that into what you do?
That is an excellent question. Luckily, just nuts and sugar and flavors, they keep for quite a while. I tell everyone my shelf life is 3 months in a sealed container.
Okay.
What we have found, it's closer to 6, but you know what? 3 months. If you bought nuts from me and they are in your house for 3 months and you haven't eaten them, you didn't want them in the first place.
Okay. I'm pretty sure most people have like a package of like trail mix or something
Right.
that's been in there
Right.
for 2 years. So, I mean, and they're probably eating that too. Like, but yeah, no, I understand. Okay. And so with that, you said that typically if you have leftovers, you can take them to the next thing. How do you make sure that you have the right kind of inventory on hand? Like, are you tracking that by quarter, or when do you know to like start stocking up? Is there like a busy season for you?
Busy season starts the second week of February and doesn't end until the second week of December.
Okay.
Yes. Luckily, I can take my roaster and my tables, my bins of nuts inside events. I can set up a booth. For instance, the home show, the boat show in Duluth, the junk hunt. I take all my stuff indoors. But as far as, you know, shelf life, and we got to keep inventory, again, the numbers from the previous years. I've always got inventory because I do maintain a website where people can order.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So you can still get my nuts if you can't find me at an event. But you're tracking these numbers all the time. Like I said, last week I was at a county fair for 5 days. So I roasted a bunch so that I was stocked coming into this next weekend, having both trailers running. So I've got probably close to $3,000 of inventory just ready. You learn. You track those numbers. And like I said, I used to tease my husband about the tracking. It's so important. I don't want to run out of your favorite flavor. When you walk up to the trailer, I want to know that you are going to get what you want.
Yeah. No, totally. And tell me a little bit about this aspect of what you're doing with your online. What have you found? Why did you start that? And what are you learning there?
Right. So we use a credit card processing company that provides a free website for us. I did buy the domain.
Okay, who is it?
Who's their processing? Square.
Okay.
That's a love-hate relationship too.
We all know that love-hate
That's a
if
love-hate
you have an
relationship.
e-commerce store.
Yep. So
Yep.
they host my website for me, and because it's nuts, it's a simple, straightforward product. I don't have, it's literally drop-down menus. You go on, you say almonds, you pick the flavor, you pick the size. It's that easy. So it's not a complicated website. I've had different companies offer, do you want me to build you a website? I'm like, it's not really necessary. I mean, there's 13 options. That's it. It's not like I'm doing shirts or, different merchandise or whatever. It's simple. So you log in, drop down menus, order your stuff. I did pay for the domain. It's gobeyondnuts.com.
All right. Which I was going to say, how can people find you? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot more questions, but we're going to talk about them in the next episode.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so we are going to transition to the gawk portion.
Fun.
For this episode. And you were telling me, we were just talking about like being alone in your shop and like what that looks like, where some people will just like wander by and then talk to you if they're the only person there. Do you have any good stories about that?
I swear it happens every event. And what cracks me up is when I get the ones that come and talk my ear off year after year, and I literally only see them at the Polk County Fair or in
They
Crooks,
know
near
you.
Crookston. They know the nut lady.
They know your
right?
listening
Oh my
ear.
goodness. And this one lady, I absolutely adore her, but she has told me all about her entire home remodel they're working on and how her mother-in-law is going to be moving in. And she essentially invited me to come stay at their house next year during the fair.
How kind.
It's very sweet, but you know what? I literally don't even remember this lady's name.
Oh, yeah.
But she is convinced I'm her new best friend.
Oh, yeah. But, like, how endearing is that?
It's kind of sweet.
Like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, I find that, like, just very interesting that it's so true. That happens a lot at different events and everything. So thank you for being with me today.
I love it. This is so fun.
Yeah, and if you have enjoyed listening to this episode, you should give it a review on wherever you are listening and join us for the next one because we will be back.